Detox. Well, my family, the verdict is in. A couple videos ago, I floated the idea of doing my first ever story time, and there seemed to be pretty much unanimous interest. There seemed to be quite a bit of interest in me doing a story time video, in particular, a story time video on my worst date ever. To be fair, there is another worst date ever story, but this is the one I'm telling today. We'll see how this goes today. Perhaps down the line, if you guys are into this, we will do another storytime video where I can share more horror stories of my dating adventures. It's funny in retrospect, but in the moment there is nothing funny. So here we go. Let's just get into this. Gather round, everyone. Gather round. It's story time. Once upon a time on Tinder, I matched with some dude. What should I call this guy? Because I don't want to call him by his real name. Not that it fucking matters. I don't really care about protecting his identity. But let's call him Ben. When Ben's profile showed up in my feed, I hesitated before swiping right. Right is the good way if you're not familiar with Tinder. Ben wasn't really my type, which is saying a lot because I don't really have a type. You know, some days I may feel like I want a little Lakeith Stanfield, another day I might want a little Steph Curry, which I shouldn't say because he's a married man and happily so. Even though he wasn't really my type necessarily, I gave him the swipe right because his profile, while terse, was pretty well put together. Immediately we matched because I suppose he had already seen my profile and liked me, so it's a match! If you've ever been on Tinder, you know how it does the whole animation when you match with someone. I move on with my life. I think I continued swiping because I generally have a policy of not messaging guys first because I have made the first move a lot of times in my life. And what it has taught me is that the type of man who isn't willing to step to me first is not the type of man I want to date anyway. I moved on, and mere moments after matching with Ben, he messages me. Typically, most people will tell you not to message or respond to a message right away because then you look thirsty. But I don't play those games because, quite frankly, I'm not the best when it comes to responding to texts and messages as it is. If I hear my phone go off with a text message, the likelihood of me getting up to see what it is very low because I do not care. Please do not contact me at any time for any reason. However, my phone was still in my hand because we had just matched moments ago and I was still doing stuff on my phone. I think still in Tinder, in fact. So I was just like, whatever, let me just respond to this guy now so I can get that off my to-do list. Pretty quickly, the conversation starts to flow. Now, as someone who loathes small talk, I will say this guy was pretty good with the back and forth. We had a good rapport. We had a nice little conversation going. I did even have it in my profile that I'm not a fan of tons of messaging and texting. I'd rather just meet for a drink, see if we get on with each other at all, and just kind of go from there. I don't want a pen pal. So I set aside my usual rule of not entertaining bullshit small talk because we were having a nice conversation. It was fine. And we were going back and forth for a good while, and eventually I was just like, hey, here's my number, my dick line number, of course, not my real phone number. Lo and behold, he texts me on the dick line pretty much immediately, and we chat some more, and the evening goes on and on. Clearly, I just must have had time that night because I wasn't doing much else. After what I considered adequate vetting, I thought that he seemed like a good time, he seemed fun, and we decided to meet for a drink maybe 3 days later or so. Once we set up the date to meet for drinks, he mentioned, oh, by the way, I'm actually not drinking this month, I'm just taking a little break from it. And I was just like, that's cool. I do that all the time. It's a nice little reset for the liver. You guys know this about me, especially if I'm trying to cut some lbs. Giving up alcohol is one of the easiest ways to do that. And he said he was actually doing the same. He was trying to cut some body fat, whatever. But he goes on to say, you know, if you want to get a drink, don't worry about it all. I'm not going to be like triggered or anything. And I was just like, cool. I mean, either way, I may end up just getting a Shirley Temple or whatever with you anyway, because I shouldn't be drinking all that much as it is. He's all ha ha ha. Key, Shirley Temples, yeah, sounds great. So everything is set up. Next day, this guy is texting me again. We're still a few days out from the date, but I guess he just likes daily contact, even though it's fucking unnecessary. Again, he's pretty fun to talk to, so it wasn't that huge of a deal. You know, he wasn't tedious. Texting with anyone eventually becomes tedious for me, so I wasn't going back and forth quite as much. However, he does mention on day 2 of contact that he's also doing the master cleanse to help drop some LBs. And in my mind, I'm like, then why did he agree to go to a bar and get Shirley Temples? Like, Shirley Temples are not Master Cleanse friendly. If you're not familiar with the Master Cleanse, it's the lemonade diet. Beyonce actually did it when she was trying to get trim for lean girls. And you drink basically a lemonade made of fresh squeezed lemon juice, water, cayenne pepper, and maple syrup, and that's it. I do not recommend, but in any case, he's doing the master cleanse. He's on like day 2 or so at this point, but whatever. He seemed fine with everything, so who am I to judge? Another day goes by and he's texting me again. We are, I think, the day before the actual date is set up. He's texting me again. Just shooting the shit, mentions that he had a very contentious meeting with his roommates. I make some kind of joke about, oh, did somebody eat somebody else's peanut butter? Ha ha ha. And I just happened to ask, how many roommates do you have? He says, 14. I said, huh? He says, yeah, I'm actually living in a halfway house over on this street that is in LA. This explains the not drinking, but of course, I don't want to judge out loud. And I was like, halfway house? Are you coming out of rehab? And he says, no. It was just the most convenient thing for me to do right now. He goes on to say that it's been cool for a while, but he's ready to get his own place. Definitely making light of the fact that living in a sober living facility is generally indicative of a substance abuse problem, or at least recovery from a substance abuse problem. But he's strongly implying that that's not the case for him. He just happens to be living there. Now, at this point, the date is tomorrow. And I don't want to be so judgmental that I break a date because a guy is recovering from substance abuse. You know, we all have our struggles in life, and he seemed to be on the upswing, but it still seems strange to me that if he's living in a halfway house, aka a sober living facility, that he would agree to meet me at a bar. But again, he's insisting that he's not really there because he needs to be. Next day, day of date. Texts me in the afternoon, a few hours before we're supposed to meet, and mentions that he is coming down with a cold and he has taken a bunch of antihistamines, so he apologizes in advance if he seems a little weird and loopy on our day. Now, first of all, aren't antihistamines for allergies, not colds? Much like the Shirley Temples not being master cleanse appropriate, I don't ask this question to him, but I'm like, whatever, okay, that's weird. I seize this opportunity to hopefully weasel out of the date and say, hey, should we cancel so that you can maybe recover and maybe not get sick? He says no, with way too many exclamation points, and insists that we keep the date. And I realize that I'm not getting out of this. He then follows up with a crack about how because he is getting sick, we now won't be able to make out on our date, to which my response was, it's the evening of the date. It's time for me to go. I'm dressed. I'm ready to go. Now, listen, I am a fervently punctual person. And in Los Angeles, punctuality is a curse. I cannot tell you how much of my life I spend waiting on other people to show up, despite the fact that we had an agreed upon time for our meeting. But not with Ben. Oh no, not with Ben. I can count on one hand the number of times I have shown up for a date and the guy was there either on time or before me. This was one of those times. In fact, I was walking up to the place pretty much right spot on when I was supposed to be, and he's texting me that he's already there. I arrive, I walk in, I look around the bar, I don't see anyone who looks like the photos from Ben's profile. I turn to go back toward the entrance because there's only one way in and one way out of this bar. And that's when I see him come in from the outside. So he must have seen me enter the bar. I don't know why he wouldn't speak to me prior to or like meet me outside like a normal person, but I surmise that he must have just been skulking around in the shadows like a fucking weirdo, because I didn't see him at all. Anyway, we greet each other, we head to the bar so that we can get our Shirley Temples, and he reiterates that he's totally cool if I get a cocktail, it's totally fine. So I do. He orders a Shirley Temple, and he tells the bartender to put it on his tab. He already has a tab. How long has he been here if he already has a tab? I get my drink, he gets his Shirley Temple, and we go to sit down in a booth that has a circular bench seat. So it's not two benches facing each other, it's a U-shaped booth with a table in the middle. I keep my distance because one, stranger danger, this is a first date, I don't want to be like right up against him anyway. And two, motherfucker is sick and I ain't trying to get sick. We get to chatting and it is not nearly as smooth and easygoing as it was in messaging and text. Whenever this happens, whenever I am on a date with someone who's basically a dud, I basically go into work mode because I spent a lot of years working on talk shows before I got into creating digital content for YouTube and stuff. So I know how to interview people. That's actually a part of my job. But once I go into work mode where I'm basically interviewing you just to keep a conversation going, I'm not having fun. I'm fucking working. It basically just devolves into me asking him questions because he's just sitting there awkwardly answering like, duh, you're so beautiful. Of course it is nice when someone says that you're attractive, but when someone just keeps going back to that and you've already said thank you, like that's not a conversation, it's just awkward. He is very, very effusive toward me nonetheless, and he finishes his Shirley Temple and says that he's going to get a drink. And I go, ruh-roh. For many reasons. He's not supposed to be drinking right now. He's living in a sober house. I'm now feeling super guilty that I've triggered him to relapse or whatever, but he's insisting that he's not in this halfway house because he has a drinking problem. It's just been convenient for him after moving back to LA from living at home for a while in Ohio or some shit because, you know, the rent went crazy at his old apartment and he couldn't afford it anymore and he had to whatever. He then also confesses that he's already had a drink anyway. He had one before I got there because he was nervous for the date. Obviously, this doesn't assuage my guilt anymore, but whatever. He's getting a drink now and it basically is not anything that I can control, you know, he's a grown-ass man. He asks me if I want another one, and I am feeling a little bit trapped now. I'm not really able to say, no, I'm gonna go home. So the drink he got before I got there, of course, explains why he already had a tab at the bar upon my arrival. I'm a pretty perceptive person. I've got pretty good instincts, and I had a hunch that that might have been the case, but I didn't want to speculate that. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, I guess. But, you know, this is more than a hat rack. The simple fact that he had a tab when I got there, I was just like, has he already been getting lit up before I even got, like, how long has this guy been here? Against my better judgment, I agreed to get a second round with him because I'm hoping maybe if he loosens up and relaxes a bit, maybe this date will start going better and I won't have to be fucking interviewing him anymore. He heads off to the bar, gets us another round, and at this point I'd like to remind you that this guy is 3 days in to the master cleanse. Motherfucker hasn't eaten in 3 days. As you can imagine, he got wasted. And fast. Before he's even finished this round of drinks with me, he's scooting over to my side of the booth, getting all up on me, putting his arm around me. At one point, he grabbed my boob. I called him out on it immediately. I'm like, hey, that's my boob. He's drunk as fuck, like, yeah, I know, and it felt awesome. Feeling up on my titties, feeling up all on my booty. Now here I am in a bar getting groped by a guy who I don't like on a date that I don't want to be on. And I'm just sitting there like, hello, darkness, my old friend. Sadly / cynically enough, this is a very familiar situation for me. You know, just another Wednesday in LA. He's becoming even more effusive than he was before, talking about how he wants to make out, and obviously I'm not game. I was just like, no, you're sick, back off, that kind of thing. Trying not to escalate the situation too much. And he's going on and on about how, oh, I know a way that we can make out so that you won't catch my cold. And I'm like, ugh, butt stuff. If I had a nickel for every first date where I had to say butt stuff, I would have like $1. This is going on for a while. I have stopped drinking my drink completely because I'm trying to figure out my exit strategy. He finishes his drink, offers me another, but I'm still more than halfway full on my second. So he goes off to get another drink while I'm sitting there to plot my escape. As he's working his way through what is apparently drink number 3, since he had another one before my arrival, he's realizing that I'm not really having a great time. See, Your girl's got no poker face whatsoever. So as much as I'm trying to be careful not to upset or anger this dude, I'm also not able to pretend I'm enjoying myself, that I'm enjoying being groped and harassed. He's asking me how I would rank our date on a scale from 1 to 10. Like, how's it going on a scale from 1 to 10? File this under things to never ask a person on a first date. Again, don't want to upset him too much, so I was feeling charitable and I said 6.5, which is about 6.5 points too high. I fail in avoiding to upset him by giving him such a paltry score because he's having a great time with me, and he just doesn't seem to understand why I'm not having a good time. As if asking me to score the date wasn't bad enough, this guy seemed to have a checklist of things not to do on a first date because he tells me that he loves me. I shit you not, it was like a scene out of a bad first date sitcom or rom-com or something. He fucking said, I love you. It was so outrageous, I just started laughing in his face. And not a cute laugh, like a screaming in your face because I'm laughing at you, not with you type of laugh. One of those. It was not pretty. Needless to say, this doesn't go over well with him. I point out to him how absurd it is that he would say he loves me because he doesn't even fucking know me. And his response is, well, it's true and you're just gonna have to deal with it, you know? Like, he's actually leaning into this ridiculousness. Now he's butthurt and he steps outside to vape. Again, just add that to the list of things not to do on a first date, at least not to do on a first date with me. But now that he's outside vaping, I have my chance to escape. I know this bar well, and I already knew that the bathroom does not have windows, so I wouldn't be able to climb out of a bathroom window. While dude is outside, I see that there are about 4 bar employees just hanging out by the bar. You know, it was like a Wednesday night or something, so it was slow. It's like 3 dudes and 1 woman who work at the bar. So I go over there and I ask the group, I say, hey, do you guys have another exit besides the front main entrance? First to respond is the woman employee, vocal fry on 1,000. No, it's just the front. Sensing the look of disappointment on my face, one of her male colleagues steps in and says, hey, what's the problem? Why are you asking? And I say, I'm just on this date with this guy. He's really, really drunk, and I'm actually a little fearful for my safety, which I can laugh about this story now, but it was true. In the moment, I was fearful, and I really just wanted to get out of there. So now him and the other 2 dude employees are circling like, wait, which one is he? Which one is he? Like, they're gonna go fuck him up or something. And I'm like, no, like, this is the exact opposite of what I want. Like, this is why I'm asking you guys for another exit. I don't want to create a scene. Immediately, vocal fry woman completely changes her tune and she goes, I'll show you the way. This was some Harriet Tubman shit. She's leading me through a weird passageway through a kitchen. It really was a testament to just womanhood and how immediately she understood the situation I was in and how it wasn't just me being some weird or difficult patron who was asking weird questions because I was being extra or something. She understood that I actually needed help. So she leads me outside and we're in this alley behind the bar and she's like, all right, do you think you're gonna be able to make it home safely from here by yourself? And I was like, yeah, like I don't live far, I'll be fine. I literally had to escape from the bar under a cloak of darkness. And the whole way I'm like clutching my coat collar, like, ah! And the whole way out I was worried that he would somehow see me, you know, maybe walking around when he was outside vaping and kind of like run up on me. So it was harrowing, but it's not over yet. Even after I get home and I've been gone, he's continuing to text me, did you leave? Oh my God, I really liked you. What did I do? Give me another chance. All this. These texts go on until 3 a.m. Lucky for me, I didn't even know because I don't even sleep with my phone in my room with me. So I see most of this shit the next morning. I was just like, wow. So he really tied one on after I left if he was texting me until 3 in the goddamn morning. Later that morning around 10 a.m., I get one more text from this dude. And he says, just woke up to all of this sadness, referring to the long string of unanswered texts from him to me, and an overwhelming sense of dread. Can you at least tell me what happened? With that and all of the other texts that he had sent the evening prior, no response was my response. And the saddest thing of all is I did even for a fleeting moment consider letting him know what happened, like I somehow owed him an explanation. Of course I didn't. But that's just such a testament to the patriarchal society that we live in, that I even considered that I might explain to him what he did. You know, I am the person who had to escape. I had to literally run away from this guy because he was being inappropriate and completely just off the mark. So that was definitely the worst date of my life, until exactly a week later when I went on an equally bad date with another dude. Anyway, that is gonna do it for this, my first ever story time video. As I said earlier, funny now, not so funny while it was happening to me. If you guys like this, perhaps I will consider doing another one, and maybe I'll tell the story of my other worst date ever, or even just some other crazy story, because trust and believe, I got a lot of them. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.
That's a nappy-headed hose there, I'm gonna tell you that now.